Let me tell you something about mistakes. The world doesn't forgive them, history doesn't forget them, and when the most powerful nation on earth makes one, the entire planet feels the earthquake. But what if I told you the next big mistake isn't going to crush some small country on the sidelines? What if I told you it's about to create a new giant, a giant that won't just survive but dominate, a giant called India, and the mistake, it belongs to America. You see, every empire in history thought it was invincible. Rome believed it, Britain believed it, and America believes it now. They think no matter what they do, the center of power will always stay with them. But that's how the fall always begins, not with weakness. With arrogance, with the belief that nobody else can rise, with the belief that their decisions, no matter how reckless, will always turn out fine. But that illusion ends fast when the world changes, and right now, the world is changing faster than America can handle. America has lived for decades thinking it can pressure, sanction, and dictate terms to anyone. It has lived thinking allies will always follow orders and rivals will always bow down. But the world of 2025 is not the world of 1995. And the India of today is not the India of yesterday. This is a nation of one, 4 billion minds, a nation that sends rockets to the moon on a budget smaller than a Hollywood movie, a nation producing more engineers, coders, doctors, scientists than entire continents combined. And this nation is no longer satisfied with being told what to do. The next mistake America makes will be the same one every superpower in decline makes, underestimating the new power rising right in front of them. And India is rising whether they like it or not. You can see it in the numbers: fastest growing economy among major nations, 5th largest economy already, heading toward 3rd, military spending climbing. Technology sector exploding, trade networks expanding from Asia to Africa to the Middle East. America thinks this rise is just economic. They think India just wants trade deals and software contracts. They don't get it. This is bigger, much bigger. This is about power, about shaping the future, about leading in a century where the old rules don't apply anymore. For too long, Washington believed India would stay neutral, stay dependent, stay careful. They believed India would never challenge the Western order, but the moment America pushes too hard, the moment they treat India like a pawn instead of a partner, they will regret it, because India has options now. New alliances, new markets, new partners who don't lecture them every time they make a move. And the more America tries to control, the more India will break free. Look at the world map today. Europe struggling with energy. The Middle East refusing to take sides, Africa demanding respect, Asia becoming the center of global growth. Where does America fit into this future? It fits as a power losing grip, a power that still has money, weapons, and influence, but less of all three every single year. They still think they can contain China, dominate Russia, manage Europe, and keep India on their side all at once. That is the fantasy, that is the arrogance, and that arrogance will cost them the century. Because when you spread yourself too thin, you make mistakes. When you fight too many battles at once, you lose allies. And when you lose allies, you lose everything. America doesn't see it yet, but the next time they try to force India into a corner, it will backfire. They will expect India to follow instructions. Instead, India will choose its own path. And the moment that happens, the balance of power shifts. The world respects strength. It doesn't matter if it comes from money, technology, or military might. But strength today doesn't look like it did 50 years ago. It's not about who has the most tanks or the biggest navy. It's about who controls trade routes, who dominates digital technology, who leads in artificial intelligence, space exploration, energy innovation. Who feeds the world when supply chains break, and guess what? India is positioning itself in every single one of those areas while America keeps wasting time playing global cop. Think about it. Space missions completed at record speed and record low cost. Digital payment system so advanced even the West admits they can't match it. A youth population bigger than the entire population of the United States and Europe combined. These young people aren't just consumers. They're creators, innovators, entrepreneurs. They're building startups, writing code, inventing technologies that the world will depend on tomorrow, and America thinks it can still call the shots. No. That era is ending. The mistake will come when America assumes India needs them more than they need India. That was true 20 years ago. It is not true now. Trade with the East is growing faster than trade with the West. Investment from the Middle East, partnerships with Africa, defense deals with Russia, technology ties with Europe, energy links with Latin America. India is building a world where no single superpower can dictate terms. The U.S. doesn't see it because they still live in the past where saying no to Washington was impossible. But India is proving it's not only possible, it's profitable. Every time America lectures India about who to trade with, who to buy oil from, who to align with, it loses more credibility. Because the world is watching, countries in Africa, South America, and Asia are watching how India stands up to pressure. They see a nation refusing to be bullied. They see a nation saying, "We will decide our future, not you." And that courage inspires others. The U.S. doesn't realize it yet, but it is teaching the entire global South that independence is possible, that you don't have to listen to Washington to succeed, that there is another way. And when the next big mistake comes, when America pushes too far, India will step into a role the world never expected, the role of a leader for nations tired of being told what to do, tired of being treated like chess pieces instead of equals. America will expect them to fall in line like always. Instead, India will lead a movement that shifts the entire balance of global power. Because this is what happens when you underestimate a nation for too long. You don't see it growing stronger every year. You don't see it building alliances. You don't see it preparing for the day when your power slips. And when that day comes, it feels sudden, but it wasn't sudden. It was happening for decades while you were too arrogant to notice. The world has always been shaped by mistakes, not small mistakes, big ones, mistakes that empires thought were harmless at the time. Mistakes they thought they could control, mistakes that looked like small cracks in the walls of power until the whole empire collapsed, and every single time they never saw it coming because power blinds you. Success blinds you. You start believing you are too strong to fail, too important to be replaced, too smart to be outplayed. And that's exactly where America stands right now. At the edge of a mistake so big, so unstoppable, it will shift the center of power for the next century. For decades, America has acted like the world's referee, the decision maker, the voice everyone must listen to. They believe alliances exist only because they allow them to. They believe economic systems function only because they designed them. They believe global leadership is their birthright, but the truth is, leadership isn't owned, it's earned, and the moment you stop earning it, someone else takes it, that someone else is ready, that someone else is waiting. That someone else is India. India has been patient. Decade after decade, it watched as America shaped global trade, finance, military alliances, and technology networks. It played along when necessary, stayed quiet when convenient, and focused on building itself piece by piece. Roads, ports, digital infrastructure, energy grids, space programs, nuclear power, defense industries, education, technology hubs. India was never sleeping. It was preparing for the day when the world needed an alternative. And that day is coming faster than America realizes. The next American miscalculation will not be about tanks or troops or missiles. It will be about trust, about arrogance, about forgetting that power today is not about how loud you speak, but about how many listen. America still talks like the world has no choice but to follow its lead. It still threatens countries with sanctions, lectures them about democracy, pressures them about trade, warns them about partnerships they don't approve of. And every time they do this, they lose another friend, another ally, another country ready to say enough. India understands something America has forgotten. Power is not about forcing people to agree with you. It's about making them want to agree with you. It's about respect. It's about partnership. That's why nations in Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and South America trust India in ways they no longer trust Washington. India offers trade without domination, technology without strings attached, energy deals without political lectures, development partnerships without military threats. The world sees that. The world compares. And the world starts asking who should lead the future, the one who bullies us or the one who works with us. America doesn't see this because it still believes only money and weapons create influence. But the 21st century runs on different fuel. It runs on technology, on data, on energy security, on reliable supply chains, on stable partnerships, and India is positioning itself in every single one of those areas while America wastes time trying to control the past instead of shaping the future. Look at what's happening right now. Digital public infrastructure in India is decades ahead of the West. 1 billion people making payments instantly on a system that costs almost nothing. While America argues about cybersecurity and privacy laws, India builds platforms that connect villages, cities, businesses, and governments in real time. That's not just technology, that's influence. Because the nations adopting India's systems won't need American ones, they won't need Silicon Valley to control everything, they will look to India for the next stage of their own growth, space exploration. India lands missions on the moon while spending less than Hollywood movies. Energy, India builds alliances from the Gulf to Africa, buying oil and gas on its own terms, not Washington's terms, trade. India signs deals with Southeast Asia, Europe, Latin America, Africa, creating a web of economic ties that no single superpower can control. Diplomacy, India talks to everyone, the U.S., Russia, China, the Middle East, but never lets anyone dictate its choices. This is not neutrality, this is strategy. The strategy of a nation preparing to lead a multipolar world where no one country gives the orders anymore. The mistake America will make is thinking this world doesn't exist. That it can keep acting like the Cold War never ended, like every nation must choose sides, like everyone still needs American protection, American approval, American money. That worked in 1950. It worked in 1990. It does not work now because nations have options, they have alternatives, and India is becoming the biggest alternative of them all. America keeps warning countries about working with rivals like China or Russia. It keeps threatening sanctions, cutting trade access, blocking technology transfers. But every time it does this, it drives those countries closer to India, because India offers partnership without punishment. India doesn't tell nations who they can or cannot talk to. It doesn't demand military bases in exchange for investment. It doesn't send troops when countries refuse to obey. That difference matters. That difference builds trust. And trust builds leadership in ways weapons never can. America thinks leadership is about power projection, about aircraft carriers in every ocean, fighter jets in every sky, soldiers in every desert and mountain. But leadership today is about who solves problems, who feeds the world when supply chains collapse, who provides vaccines during pandemics, who helps build digital networks in Africa, energy grids in Asia, manufacturing hubs in Latin America. India is doing all of this quietly, consistently, while America spends trillions on wars that achieve nothing but chaos. And here's what America doesn't understand. When you keep making the same mistakes, the world stops listening. Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, endless conflicts that left nations in ruins while Washington claimed it was spreading freedom. Now when America lectures others about democracy or human rights, they hear hypocrisy, not leadership. But when India talks about development, about solar energy, about digital growth, about food security, they hear solutions. The contrast couldn't be bigger. The next miscalculation will come when America assumes countries will always need its protection. They won't, not when India offers technology for digital security, drones for border defense, satellites for communication, nuclear power for energy independence. Nations will ask, why take orders from Washington when we can partner with India as equals? Why choose one superpower's side when we can work with a rising power that doesn't demand loyalty oaths? That question is already spreading across the global south, and America has no answer for it. India's rise is not built on threats. It's built on respect. That's why African nations invite India to build railways and power plants instead of just selling weapons. That's why Middle Eastern powers sign energy deals with India even as they remain U.S. allies. That's why Southeast Asian nations look to India for digital platforms instead of relying solely on Western tech giants. Influence built this way lasts longer than influence built on fear. Because when nations respect you, they stay with you even when things go wrong. When they fear you, they leave the moment they have another option, and India is giving them that option, a new center of gravity in a world tired of one country dominance, a world that doesn't want another Cold War. A world that doesn't want to choose between East and West, North and South. They want partners, not masters, and India is proving it can be that partner while America keeps acting like the master everyone wants to escape.